nature, things of that 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 nature.
Well, that was not what we had in mind. Welcome in, everybody, to the Pot of That Nature post-game show. LSU 34, Arkansas 10. A homecoming beatdown served up by the Tigers. Not a great night for Arkansas. Arkansas was bad. The officials were bad. LSU was pretty decent, and just a rough one on homecoming for the Hogs.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're not going to come on here and be like completely, unacceptable, fire the whole coaching staff and, garbage top to bottom. It was definitely a disappointing performance and one that, I didn't see coming necessarily. But now that it happened, I'm kind of not that surprised. But man, respect is not given in college football. You got to go out there and earn it. Arkansas had a very prime opportunity to make the nation respect them, to make the SEC respect them. To become very relevant on the national perspective. And to say that they shied away from that moment would be an understatement. It felt like at times there was times where LSU kind of was trying to let Arkansas back into the game, and they did not take any of those opportunities. They had to fight the refs a little bit, but ultimately Arkansas just wasn't good enough to win this game. And the better team won, though I would argue that the gap between the two teams is not as big as the score indicates. And I think that's what's going to be disappointing the most to Hog fans. But yeah, it's just a very disappointing effort in prime time with a chance to really make a mark on this season.
Yeah, I mean, all the things Arkansas does poorly when they lose games, they did today. You missed a field goal, you fumbled a football, you had a bad interception deep in your own territory. You're not going to beat decent teams doing that. You lost the turnover battle 3-0, and you wound up getting your butt kicked on the scoreboard. There you go. I didn't have LSU being the team that was going to be able to establish the run game instead of Arkansas on my bingo card. But that happened. The defense, yeah, like they gave up 34 points or whatever, but I think I'm far more concerned about the offense. 277 yards and a decent amount of those kind of coming in some garbage time there right at the end against an LSU defense that frankly is just not very good. That's worrisome, man. It really is. Only 10 points in this game. That can't happen against LSU. Like it might get a little bit easier than that when you face Mississippi State next week, but most of the defense you're going to play are going to be better than what LSU put out there. Arkansas has a problem scoring points, man. And, I think people are going to be, probably ticked off at Taylor Green for that interception or whatever. I mean, I thought he was mostly solid in this game, but I look at it and I don't like the balance. Even though they were behind late between the rush and the pass there, Quinton Jackson, 5 attempts for 26 yards. I mean, you're coming off a bye, and listen, I hate it for him if he's really hurting out there, if he's physically injured, but man, you got to figure something out. If it's every carry, he's got to be helped off the field or something. Like if he's that hurt, he shouldn't be playing, and you need to be giving those to somebody else. It's kind of absurd there, but man, they couldn't get anything going on the ground. Couldn't take advantage of opportunities that they had. Hell, the crowd showed up and showed out. I mean, it felt like every other play LSU was false start, flinching, something. But you just had opportunities and you couldn't take advantage of it. And then it kind of felt like there in the fourth quarter, I don't want to say they quit, but I think kind of conceded to what was going on there, and it got ugly.
Yeah, it's not like Arkansas just quit from the opening bell, although I will say it took them a while. It took them about a quarter to settle into the game. There was a while there where Arkansas was very much in the game, and there were times where LSU was almost daring them to get back into it. But yeah, I did think Arkansas did. We can just go ahead and say it. They quit after the interception, which led to an immediate touchdown. That was kind of what took the air out of the stadium, took the air out of the Arkansas sideline, and from that point on, they kind of just rolled over and took it. But really, it would be one thing, Curtis, if I felt like LSU just came in here and played lights out football and just beat Arkansas up, which they did beat Arkansas up, but they left a lot on the board there. They left a lot on the table there. And like I said, like they were kind of daring Arkansas to get back into the game. And I saw someone in the chat earlier say there wasn't a ton of sense of urgency. Shout out to Razor Shark here. He said it didn't feel like there was any sense of urgency from the team tonight, like they were playing it safe, too safe. I go back to the second quarter when Arkansas gets a big stop, another one of their 4 field goal stops to make it a 16-7 game. There's 3 minutes left in the half. Arkansas has the ball, and they know they get the ball to start the second half. So you look at it and you're like, man, if they go down and score here, it's 16-14. You get the ball to start half. All of a sudden, you're in business. Arkansas played it a little safe on that possession. Drive stalls out around midfield, and then LSU gets the ball back, and Arkansas allows them to run out the clock with 3 timeouts. They were completely content to make it a 16-7 game going into half. And then they start the second half with a pretty good drive that ended in a field goal from Matthew Shipley. But again, it just felt like there were a lot of opportunities for Arkansas to go out there and really bring it to LSU. And they shied away anytime they got a chance. And ultimately, you said it, like, this offense in SEC play just has not been good enough week in and week out. And they got bailed out by a really good defensive performance in that Auburn game. The Tennessee game, of course, the defense bailed them out there. They nearly bailed them out against A&M, who's one of the best teams in the conference. But that's kind of been the story of SEC play for Arkansas. You go back to weeks 1 and 2 when Arkansas was averaging 650 yards a game, and it was all sunshine and rainbows, and it looked great on the offensive side of the ball. Since then, this offense has come back to earth in a big way. In SEC play, they're one of the worst offenses in the league. And it's not been a super offensive league in the SEC, but I mean, the sample size has kind of grown big enough at this point. And I think the biggest surprise to me, and you mentioned the split between the passing and the rushing, Jaquindon Jackson, he's going in and out with injury. I know Braylon Russell was in there, didn't get much going. Rashad Dubinion had a couple carries here and there before he turned the ball over. But yeah, the lack of commitment to the run game was a little bit surprising. And the fact that this Arkansas offensive line wasn't able to really assert themselves against this LSU front, which has been, allowing teams to run on them pretty consistently and move the ball. I guess I was surprised by how hard it was for Arkansas to move the ball. And you mentioned Taylon Green, and I felt like he gave them a chance to. He was kind of one of their bright spots offensively. Obviously, he and Andrew Armstrong, who continues to be really good. Andrew Armstrong is one of the best receivers in the country. Good to see him finally get in the end zone. But yeah, this Arkansas offense just doesn't seem to have consistent answers against really good defenses. And I don't even think LSU has a really good defense. I think Arkansas just kind of left a lot of points on the field there.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. It's frustrating too, because the defense was kind of the epitome of bend but don't break for the longest there, getting some wins and holding LSU to field goals on 3 possessions. But yeah, I mean, Arkansas couldn't really take advantage of it. And sometimes you get in those spots and it's like, okay, this is great from the defense, but at some point you kind of need to make a play, force a turnover, get a pick, a fumble, hell, a 3 and out just to get them off the field or whatever, because it felt like LSU was, even if they weren't getting a touchdown every possession, they were kind of dictating the tempo and the pace of the game, which is exactly what Arkansas did against Tennessee a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, the offense not moving the ball, 19 carries for 38 yards. And this is no longer just like a one-off here and there. Like, they just haven't really run it effectively for the most part in SEC play. And it's interesting because the issue was pass protection for what seemed like the longest. And, oh yeah, they're paving holes and they're pretty good in the run block. And now you're not getting that either. And man, their inability to finish drives is it's maddening. It really is. 17.5 points per game in SEC play, buddy. That's not going to get you where you want to be. It's that's not good enough. So I don't know, man. It's unnerving. I'll be interested to hear what Sam Pittman has to say about just kind of completely abandoning the run game. Cause it's not like they were just behind and it was like, oh shit, like we just got to pass every play here. No, it wasn't that at all. They just didn't do it. And there was no commitment to it. I don't know if he's going to say anything at all, but man, that was rough.
Yeah, 101 yards for Arkansas in the second half. About a quarter of those came on that final drive, which stalled out around midfield while the game was well in hand by that point. -7 rushing yards in the second half, Curtis. That just ain't going to cut it. And ultimately, LSU, we talked a lot about would Arkansas be able to get pressure on LSU, who didn't give up a sack to Ole Miss last week in 51 dropbacks. Early in the game, it felt like Arkansas was doing a good job of at least putting some pressure on and throwing some bodies at Garrett Nussmeier and muddying up the fronts. And Landon Jackson got real close there a couple times, and it felt like you're like, oh, man, it's just a matter of time before Arkansas's pass rush will get home. That was not the case. Arkansas's pass rush by the end of the game was almost non-existent. And on the opposite end, LSU, who didn't have a sack, barely was even touching Taylon Green at all in the first half. They started to really hit home and started to wear down that Arkansas offensive line. They have 3 huge sacks there in the second half and had obviously the huge interception, which came off some pressure there. And I felt like ultimately it just seemed like LSU gained strength throughout this game and Arkansas faded away real quick. And man, it's not like a big picture game where I'm like, man, this program sucks. This team sucks. Like, what the hell? They just really did not show up tonight. I don't know if that's like unfair to say. Because I mean, look, if you think this is like the best version of this Arkansas team, then you just think this Arkansas team's a lot worse than I do. And I don't think like Arkansas is incapable of being on the same field and competing with teams like LSU, who, by the way, like we're not trying to take away credit from LSU. They're a damn good team. I mean, they're a top 10 team. They just beat Ole Miss. They're going to win a lot of games. Brian Kelly has weathered the storm really well, starting given how this season started off for LSU. Like that, there's no shame in losing to LSU, and they did a good job. They went out there and they made the plays to win the game. But man, it just kind of sucked to see Arkansas not rise to the occasion at all, not really rise up and, feel the moment and feel that urgency, like Razor Shark was saying.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's kind of like we were saying in the pregame. It's just an opportunity for Arkansas to get that respect that they've been kind of craving on the national scale, and you didn't get it. You kind of pooped the bed on that front, and now you can just kind of toil around in the doldrums of mediocrity for a while. So that's kind of where we're at. But let's get to the chat and see how people are feeling about it. I'm guessing not great. If I had to guess.
Brian Curry says LSU has more dudes than we do in its show tonight. We were playing from behind all night and then turning it over to them. Can't do that against a team that got that many more dudes. I will say, like, LSU definitely has some dudes, and I mean, you saw that show up in the passing game and their defense. I mean, their front seven, those guys showed up and got better throughout the game. Shout out to Whit Weeks, man. I feel like he was the player of the game. He made the play of the game. LSU definitely has more dudes, but I don't know if that's the story of this game.
Well, it's one of the least talented LSU teams that they've had in a while, honestly.
Truly, this is not your father's like LSU where there's a ton of NFL guys all over.
They have
a
ton of guys who were hurt. A lot of dudes who were hurt. Like Harold Perkins wasn't out there. The Guillory or whatever the dude's name is on defense wasn't out there. They had a guy who was out for a minute. Another guy on the defense. There's receivers who are missing. Their top running back is out for the season. Like they're missing a crap ton of dudes. And Arkansas is coming off of a bye week and allegedly was about as healthy as they've been all season. And they just got punked. That's tough.
Yeah. Absolutely. Stripiest Wig, our guy, says, our offense is so inconsistent. Feel bad for these guys the next few days trying to make content for a supremely cranky and fickle hog fan base. I got bad news to report to you, Stripiest Wig. The offense is pretty consistent. What'd you say, Curtis? They're averaging 17 points in SEC play. Now they had 10 tonight. Didn't quite get to 17. They've been consistently pretty bad in SEC play. I think it's time to kind of reassess the expectations for this offense a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you see little flashes here and there. It's not like a completely inept unit like I felt last year. Like last year's unit is still worse to me, but overall, I just don't know if Arkansas's offense is good enough to win games like this.
Well, they've abandoned the run game completely now for whatever reason. But it's crazy because sometimes they're really moving the ball and it feels like 3rd and long, no big deal. They're going to pick it up. You just know that it's coming. And Andrew Armstrong, he's always open and you find him and it's like they're firing all cylinders, but they can't finish. They cannot finish drives. They can't score. Newsflash, you got to score points to win a football game. And then they just go through those stretches where it's like a boneheaded mistake, a fumble, an interception, whatever, just drive killing stuff. And you can't do that, man. And let's see, what were they in the red zone? They didn't get in the red zone. Never mind. They were 0 for 0 in the red zone.
Yeah, I guess the touchdown was like a 25-yarder or something like that each.
Yeah.
Yikes, Hog Barbecue says the team gave up after that interception.
It was deflating. Yeah, it was definitely deflating, man. That one took the air out of the stadium, which otherwise, I mean, that place was freaking rocking. It definitely impacted LSU, man, because they kept jumping off sides or getting the false starts there.
What did it end up being, 8 or 9 false starts on LSU?
Yeah, it was insane, man. They had 11 penalties for 80 yards in the game. And I would say at least 8 of them were on that offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Drake Jones. We got our first super chat, or as John likes to call them, sponsored comments.
Appreciate it.
When are we going to start talking about us having one of the worst offenses in the country? This is abysmal, man. Maybe not in the country, but I would say in the SEC, definitely in SEC play, it's a bottom half unit without a doubt. Yeah. And look, you can decide who you want to assess that blame to. I just ultimately feel like there's not a ton of difference makers. You got one real difference maker in Andrew Armstrong. Isaiah Satania is a nice player, although he had that horrible fumble there at the end. Jaquinton Jackson, when he's healthy, is a nice player, but not a ton of guys that are really going to go out there on SEC fields and assert themselves. And Arkansas's really failed to do that. Our guy Spectre Streams, who's consistent, a legend of the post-game chats, and just a legend overall, says, well, shit, LOL.
That's kind of how I feel, man. That about sums it up, honestly. So,
yeah, I think I texted you and John, well, which was in my Sam Pittman voice, but I mean, that's echo the same sentiment. Right. Witty F says, everybody's been riding T-Well D all week, but that D looked pretty limp and mediocre to me. They ran all over us. So, okay, I'll say this. It definitely was not like a perfect performance by his defense, I felt like they gave Arkansas a chance to win. Arkansas just refused to kind of meet the challenge. The offense just never really showed up. I feel like the defense held on as long as they could, frankly. And then obviously it fell apart there at the end. You have a 2-yard touchdown drive that goes against them, and the opening touchdown drive, which, LSU tried to get themselves out of. In between that, you just had 4 field goal drives, a lot of which were long field goals. If there's a criticism that I'm going to offer up, it's that they just didn't make plays. They didn't make game-changing plays. No sacks, no turnovers, no interceptions, no fumbles, no 3 and out, like no plays that really swung the momentum or possessions that really asserted themselves. I felt like they held up pretty well against what is a really good pass offense, an LSU team that kind of took the challenge of Arkansas daring them to run the ball. They ran the ball and it ended up kind of working out for them in the end. I don't think the defense was the issue in this game, frankly. I think the defense kind of held up. Wasn't a great performance. It was far from their best performance of the year, but they gave Arkansas a chance to win it for 3 quarters there, and Arkansas just kind of the offense just failed to show up.
Yeah, had you told me going into the game that Garrett Nussmeier was only going to throw for 224 and not have a touchdown, I'd have felt really good about Arkansas's chances. I damn sure wouldn't have thought it would have been a 34-10 loss, but it goes back to LSU just – I don't know if that's their best rushing performance of the year. It was probably one of them. It was a hell of a lot better than they did against Ole Miss, man. And Durham was just kind of running all over him. So,
Weekly Running Back says, at what point do we recognize this Bobby P experiment isn't working? Well, I would say it's definitely not working like to the way that I think the expectations were definitely a lot higher from the fan base. Let's just be honest. I mean, normal human beings like Curtis and I, this is not exactly what we expected. I thought they'd be a little bit better than this. But yeah, I mean, I think they're just fine. They're not horrible. They're not good. They're just kind of fine. They're just kind of out there, and against any real stiff competition, I think they're going to struggle to get points on the board. We've got Mr. John Neighbors here.
We almost have Mr. John Neighbors here.
While we're waiting on John to get situated, I did want to shout out Kale the Whale because I accidentally clicked on it, but shout out to him. He says 6 in year incoming. I'd be shocked if they did better. Yeah. Well, we're back to where we started preseason. That's kind of where we started.
It kind of sucks to be back to that point.
We went from 6-6. Maybe this team's going to go playoff. Maybe they're going to go 4-8. Maybe they're going to go to the playoff. 6-6. That's where we're back at now. Yeah. John, what say you?
Man. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again is how I feel right now. Like that was a... And I was listening to you guys as I was walking in here to the finest of parking debts here in the U of A. But, man, I was not expecting that. Like, I felt like there was a way that this game would be close. I felt like there was a way that LSU could win. But it just felt like it was like the same old song, different verse for this team. It was brutal. And I hate it because the atmosphere was incredible. The fans were there. I mean, the day was great. Leading up to it was great. But to see the team completely and totally just almost like it felt like a revert back to what they were doing wrong for so long, whether it was the costly turnovers and really inopportune moments, whether it was some questionable calls, whether it was not giving the right people the ball when they needed it. Like, I'm trying to find some silver linings in this, but guys, I just don't know if this is it. I don't know if this is the time where I can sit here and be like, you know what, this is just tight. This is just one of them games. It's just one of those things. I just don't think I can do it today. That was very disappointing. I think that's the best way I can put it. I'm not necessarily like pissed off, but I'm very disappointed in what that ended up being for the Razorbacks. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it. Like I'm not out here pissing flames or anything like that, but yeah, it's super deflating, man. It is. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
And you're right, man. I mean, they kind of got their ass kicked tonight. So.
Dude, yeah, and like, look, and it's not like LSU's a bad team. Again, like, and it's not even like, I mean, they're good. They are good. But I mean, we questioned literally yesterday if LSU was capable of kicking their ass because we didn't think LSU was a well-rounded football team enough. Obviously, they have a really good quarterback. They have a really good passing game. And they've got some playmakers on defense and a really good defensive coordinator, I should say. And credit to him because I feel like let's just be real, outcoached Bobby Petrino tonight. And they beat Arkansas up in the trenches.
That formation they were doing was crazy where they were just stacking 4 guys and just sending them out.
That one time they lined up like 6 yards off the line of scrimmage and it didn't really work out. But It was like the Maryland I formation on defense. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Interesting.
But yeah, man, it's just, again, I know some people that are kind of just like, oh, well, I mean, our LSU is good. We knew this was going to happen. I wasn't hearing that coming into the week. I wasn't hearing that from the fan base coming into the week. I think a lot of Arkansas fans were very confident. So if y'all aren't disappointed, like, that's fine. I thought Arkansas was a little bit better. I thought they could compete in a game like this. And college football, it's all about moments, man. And this was a very big moment, very big test for this Arkansas team. And they shied away from it big time.
Well, inconsistency is just going to be the theme of this football team. I mean, it's just the way it is. Like they can compete in a game like this because they did it 2 weeks ago, but can they do it consistently? Hell no, they can't, because they keep reverting back to this kind of stuff. And that's why it's so dangerous to get so high when they do something like they did against Tennessee, because this is the opposite end of the spectrum that they're capable of doing every week. Also, you just never know what you're going to get with this bunch.
Yeah.
Well,
let's go back to see what these Oh yeah, go ahead, John. Finish. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, to add to what you guys were saying, like, it's a thing where it's like, what this team's capable of, and to have a bye week, to get guys healthy, to game plan for this game, to know what was at stake. Again, if Arkansas loses this game, I'm not like, off the rails, like, hey, the season's over or anything, but to get your taints handed to you like you did today. Yeah. That, to me, is what's the toughest thing to do. Is like you had a bye week. You had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, 2 weeks to get guys healthy, 2 weeks to get, Taylor Green ready, to get this offense ready, to get everything ready. And to see that type of performance was just extremely disappointing. I think that's what impacts me the most, is like, you had so much time. This was a perfect setup. And, I think I predicted Arkansas to win 20-17. And even if you said Arkansas was going to lose this game, I would have been like, okay, well, it's probably going to be 20-17 LSU. Like, I thought it would be a close game. But of all the years of all the teams in the Sam Pittman versus LSU era, for this one to be the one that you get blown out at, like, it's extremely disappointing. I know I've said that before, but that's really the only way I can put it, is like, you had such a great setup. You had such an opportunity here to prove to everybody, to prove to the nation, to prove to the SEC that Tennessee game wasn't a fluke, that those games against Oklahoma State, that game against A&M, hey, those are just one play away. You're a good football team, because we've heard Sam Pittman say it all day long and all year long. We got a good football team. This was your time to step up and to say, hey, we're going to have a good football team, and you didn't do it. And that's extremely frustrating.
Tennessee and LSU are different teams, of course. It's different matchups and all that. But you just can't tell me that the Arkansas team that played against Tennessee is the same Arkansas team. Like, it was like an equal effort. Like, clearly there was a stepping off point. And, I just go back to the offseason, and when people like us, when we're looking at this team and we're like, oh yeah, we kind of like some of the pieces, maybe they could be pretty good, and you kind of have that hesitancy in the back of your mind, that hesitancy to believe in them. And you're kind of like, oh, I don't know. It's hard for you to talk yourself into them going better than 6-6, 7-5. These are the type of games that can erase some of that. Where if you go out and you have a nice performance in this game, maybe next year when we're having that conversation, I'm like, you know what? Maybe they can take a little bit of a next step. But Curtis, you said it best at the tailgate today. You said, I'm just waiting on someone to come in here and whip Arkansas's ass, because it seems like every year there's just a game where Arkansas gets their ass whipped. And this was the one. And it's a little too predictable. And I mean, look, we kind of joked about it leading up to the week that we're like, hey, maybe too many people are on Arkansas. Like, does that make us a little nervous? Yeah, because this was like kind of, in hindsight, I'm kind of surprised. Like, I sensed it coming a little bit. Like, there was a little nervousness, but this was a very obvious opportunity for Arkansas to pee on themselves on national television, and they did it.
Yeah, well, and I picked LSU to win this game in our predictions, and I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'm not going to pat myself on the back now. The reason I did is because everybody else on our staff picked Arkansas to win, so I was like, we got to mix it up, whatever. I'll be the heel. But what I wrote in it was that when all the stars align, like when everything is pointing towards Arkansas being able to get this done, that's exactly when they don't do it every single time. That's when you get punched in the gut, and that's when it hurts the worst. And that's exactly what they did. And now maybe we can stop this thing about how, Sam Pittman, he doesn't lose after bye weeks. There's so much context involved in that. And I didn't say it this past week because everybody was on that train, but it's like, okay, 3 years ago, you beat a mid Mississippi State team when you came off a bye. Congratulations. 2 years ago, you beat an Auburn team that was tanking and they fired their damn coach after the game. Last year, you beat a Florida team who wanted to fire their coach after the game. Like, and now you played a good team coming off the bye, and you kind of laid an egg in this one. So, yeah, it's frustrating, man. I expected a better performance, and honestly, had they lost this game, I think I picked it 28-24 or something, I probably feel a little bit differently. But the way it went down, I realized it was close still, midway through the third quarter or whatever. But man, it just, outside of just a few minutes there, a handful of plays, I never really felt like Arkansas was going to get it done, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and I'm just not going to accept the whole, well, LSU's a good team, ran into a good football team, you got to tip your hat type of thing. LSU is a good football team, but none of y'all were saying that leading into this game. Everyone felt like Arkansas had a chance to win nationally. Everyone in the state felt like Arkansas had a chance to win. It's not like we were all just morons. Arkansas just did not show up in this game. But you know who did show up today? It's Coach Sig, and our boy JT Hazelwood said, "I'm just tired, boys." # Coach Sig.
Hey, that was some impressive stuff, man. Yeah,
it was very impressive from Indiana. Shout out to them, 7-0. Also, Chris Dees. I guess now is the time we should do the targeting conversation. Chris Dees said before the targeting call there was beginnings of momentum, which is true.
Agreed.
That drive killed everything. Not the reason the Hogs lost, but it swung the momentum. Yeah, I referenced that drive earlier without referencing the targeting. That was kind of one of those moments. It's 16-7. You got a chance to do the halftime score thing. And that's when the targeting called, non-targeting happened. That's when the pass interference to Jordan Anthony didn't happen. That was a big moment in the game for sure.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And it was targeting. I mean, he launched himself at a defensive receiver with contact above the shoulders. I mean, that's seemed pretty textbook to me. Yeah. And then the PI after that, the non-call, that's tough. And then the next possession, everybody was pissed because, Cuddy got flagged for the PI. That was pass interference, but like the other one was too, you just have to have some consistency there. Wasn't the difference in the game, obviously, but yeah, at the time it was, it was a momentum shifter, but Arkansas had plenty of chances outside of that to overcome it. You know what pisses me off is just seeing like the live tweeting from the press conferences or whatever. And seeing they could not run the ball. We made them one-dimensional. And when that happens, we can get after the quarterback. We made life difficult for him from Brian Kelly. Seeing Brian Kelly quote saying that they could not run the ball and we made them one-dimensional when your defense has sucked all year. That's frustrating. That's really frustrating, man. You
made an athletic quarterback whose best traits are making plays out on the edge, read option. That game, you made him a pocket passer. And weirdly enough, he made a lot of good throws from the pocket. He had a nice. I'll be interested to see what his PFF grade is because I think he's going to grade out pretty well on a throw-for-throw basis. But that's not the Arkansas offense that we know and love. That's not what Arkansas wants to do. And a big part of that is the offensive line being trash, according to Nick Lee. We appreciate your comment, Nick. Great stuff.
Well, for a minute, I thought they might have been onto something. Making that move that you had hinted at last week with Harris moving out to tackle, Blackstock moving inside. But no, it was it wound up not being great. There was I thought a night and day difference in the offensive line between the first half and the second half. And I don't think they were great in the first half, but the second, man, they definitely weren't. That was a struggle bus, dude.
Games in the SEC are won in the trenches, and Arkansas's offensive line got worse throughout this game. Their defensive line got worse, and LSU just got better. But guys, no fear. Because our guy Mark Dubb, who really does not like John, he says LSU's a better team. They're in the top 10 for a reason. Too many turnovers. Sam Pittman just needs more time. He has great coordinators now. We will still make a bowl game. Woo Pig Suey next year, fellas. Next year is the craziest thing to say 7 games into the season after you just peed your pants on national television. Next year, Mark? Really? He needs more time. Is 5 years? Is that not sufficient? And look, I'm not calling for Pittman's job. I don't know if needs more time is the right angle.
That's the Arkansas catchphrase, man. Next year,
dude, miss me with that. If here's the thing. I know he's trolling. He's got to be trolling because
he commented it no less than 30 times in the chat.
Yeah, and that's why I put him in timeout. I'm sick of that stuff. I'm sick of the nonsense. You want to troll, then troll. But
next year,
is the type
John.
of game. Yeah, next year. Yeah, when we have a great opportunity, when you have a completely different squad, and what's going to be the excuse next year? All right? Listen, you had it right now. You had the opportunity to go out there and to prove yourself, okay? This SEC is chaotic. Georgia's putting it to Texas, okay? This Georgia team that almost lost to Kentucky, that got beat by Alabama. That Alabama team that lost to Tennessee tonight. The SEC is so chaotic right now. This was your opportunity to be part of that chaos, to be able to go into a mix and to be able to be that team that separates yourself and actually competes and puts yourself and say, hey, I don't know if we're going to win the SEC, but we're going to be part of the chaos. And what did you do? You come off of that big win against Tennessee at home. Great win. You get people healthy in the bye week, and you lay an egg in what was it, the fourth largest crowd in Fayetteville and Donald W. Brown's Razorbacks history. You lay an egg like that, and you get the break speed off of you by an LSU team that is good. Not great, not elite, good. They put it to you. And you're going to sit here and tell me that there is some sort of thing where it's like, oh, this is an excuse, or this is the way it should be, or oh, wait till next year. Zero excuse. You lose the game, hey, that's fine. LSU may be a better team than you. But to lose the game by 24 points, we're talking about 4 possessions essentially. You lose the game like that at home in front of your crowd with a bye week. There is zero excuse for that type of performance. Zero. So I don't want to hear about this stuff about next year or anything. This was your opportunity, and you screwed it up. You screwed it up. That's all. I just miss me with that stuff, man.
I'd like to share with you a quote from Sam Pittman in the postgame. He says, I think we'll be fine.
Wait.
I still think we've got a good football team. We always want to go to the postseason, and we can still do that. Our kids will be excited to try to get to the postseason, and we've got a rebound next week against Mississippi State. Copy paste after.
Well,
oh man,
hey, I want credit to a fine LSU team. You know, we got a good football team.
I'm gonna jump off this parking deck.
I thought the kids played hard.
Off this parking deck that I'm in there.
Curtis, I need you. We need your services.
Yeah.
Hayden Ulmer says, Curtis, I need you to talk basketball to make me less mad, please. Also, Andrew, tell me we'll win it all in baseball. I'm sad.
Please.
Well, Hayden, Arkansas is going to be very, very good in basketball this year. But I wouldn't be looking towards Friday thinking that it's going to make you feel a lot better, because Kansas is the #1 team in the country, and I don't think Arkansas is going to be playing with a full deck. So there's that. But long run, long term, the Hogs are going to be fine. They're going to be really solid.
Just look past the next couple weeks, because there might be some rusty needs to be shaken off.
Yeah.
Shout out to our guy, Witty F. He's going through it, man. He said, we stuck tonight. Horrible loss. And my dad still hasn't come home with the milk 5 years later. It's just depressing. Hey, Witty, I actually think he's coming back. Trust me. I think he's coming back. Hold out hope. Clear spot for him on the table for Thanksgiving. I think he's coming back.
On Jaquindon Jackson, I'm hearing that he has an ankle, in case anybody was wondering. And apparently that's been a thing, but he wanted to play against LSU and then tweaked it again in this game. So he was not on the injury report, but he had an ankle and he tried to gut it out. So,
well,
there you go.
Shout out to Razorback recap. Shout out to y'all for the hospitality, he says, with the tailgate and all that. Love you guys, and I'm glad to be a part of this family.
That would be Peyton, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Peyton who's doing some really good work on our website. We appreciate Peyton. Good people.
Hell yeah, Peyton. Man, we're going to take these super chats and we're going to spread them to our interns. So,
hey, did John really just chug a bottle of water? Did you just do that?
Yeah, because there's nothing harder here around me for me to drink right now after this crap. I'm sorry, it just pisses, dude. It just pisses me off. I mean, I'm trying to keep it together. I'm trying to just hold it together, and I just can't, man. I just can't. That's just so annoying. It's just so annoying to see this type of performance. Sorry, it's just terrible.
Well, Mason Furlow, he agrees with Sam Pittman, says, just because we lost to a top 10 team doesn't mean you should jump ship, obviously. It was a bad game, but we still got a bowl to get to. Not that y'all are. Here's the thing. It's not even that they lost. Again, if they had lost 31-28, we were having a very different conversation. It's the complete inability to show up to the biggest moment of the season is kind of, I mean, look, and that's just fair or not. Your season is defined by these moments, by what you do when all the eyes are on you. That's what people are going to remember. Nobody's going to remember. And look, Arkansas's going to win more games this season. They're going to beat Louisiana Tech. They'll have a good chance to beat Mississippi State. Ain't nobody going to be watching that. It's not going to be prime time. It's not going to be 76,000. It was like 75,600 something. It was a massive crowd there tonight.
Insane, bro.
These moments are few and far between. You only get 12 games all year. You got to at least show up and compete in the ones whenever everyone's there. Man, it's just tough, man. I'll get through a few quick through. Just going to a little speed run through these. Travis says, "I will admit I'm not feeling good about Mississippi State. We appreciate you, Travis."
Let me tell you something though, buddy. That I feel you, man. Like Arkansas should absolutely go down there and win that game. And even despite what happened tonight, I think they will. But those dudes are getting better every week. Like this is not the same team that got the crap kicked out of them by Toledo in week 2 or whatever. They pushed Georgia, scored 31 on them. It was a 1-possession game deep into the game against Texas A&M today. Like.
This
it ain't gonna be easy, man.
A better performance for them than last week, even.
Yeah, they're getting better, and that's terrifying because, good Lord, you go down there and lose to the Cowbells. Yikes! Oof.
Nick Lee says, "Speak with your chest, John."
Yeah, he's doing that. He's doing that. We needed that rant, though. We needed it.
Yeah. Johnny, you've been yelling a lot tonight, haven't you?
Five carries for Jaquindon Jackson.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Buddy, we were talking about get Jaquindon Jackson 20 touches. I know when Unbiased Brim called in, Andrew was like, "Man, screw it. Yeah, get Jaquindon 30 touches." They had 18 carries as a team.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing? We just abandon the run game. I cannot get over that.
Because the run game's been so crap all year. The run game's been trash. That's not been the thing that's been really successful for you.
Yeah, it's
but
like
the passing game's been the real strength of this team. So let's just throw it 80 times.
Shout out to Drake Jones pulling up a legendary Sam Pittman quote. "I didn't know what to do." Sam Pittman on being asked if he knew what to do. The epitome of his coaching tenure. Sam's not going to be a popular man in the streets of Arkansas these days. I think it's a little bit deeper than Sam Pittman, but he's the head coach. Shane, shout out to Shane. We got a Tiger dropping some dimes for us. As an LSU fan, I feel Arkansas got really cocky after beating Tennessee. Like LSU was nothing. Go Tigers. Arkansas definitely got pretty cocky.
Yeah, you're not lying.
No, you're not lying at all.
Okay. Here's the thing. You beat a top 5 team. Find me somebody that doesn't get a little bit cocky after beating a top 5 team. Like that. That's my thing. It's not like it's like they beat Mississippi State and they're like, "Oh, playoff." Like, no, it was you beat a top 5 team. And what'd you follow that up with? 2 weeks later, we just literally crap bed against an LSU team that's good. Good. Not great. Good.
Are y'all a fan of
you shouldn't do that.
Are y'all a fan of giving the receivers 10 yards of cushion on 3rd and 6 or less?
No.
Well, Tucker Lloyd loves it. So appreciate you, Tucker Lloyd.
That's pretty good.
That's good stuff.
Sam Pittman did have a quote about that. He was just saying we're just taking what they gave us, like they're just letting him get that Nussmeier was taking what Arkansas gave him, which was 8 to 10 yards every time he threw the damn football. Basically.
Which Brian Kelly spoke about early. He was like, I mean, if they're going to give us these easy, what did he call them? It was like easy access throws or something like that. I mean, it is what it is. And what's crazy, again, like we can nitpick the defensive game plan all we want. I felt like Arkansas for a while still achieved what they needed to do. It was that which we called coming into the game. They were going to do the whole bend but don't break, keep everything in front of them defense. I'm not as upset about the defensive performance as I think a lot of the fan base is for whatever reason.
You can't win if you can't score. Okay?
Correct.
Like you just can't do it. Yes, and they can't score. This offense cannot score. All right, you're talking about an SEC play. They played what? They played 4 games, right? At this point, 4 games. Their highest point total in SEC play is 24.
Yep.
Other than that, they scored 19, 14, or 17, 14, and 10. Like they just can't score. No, nobody can. But find me any SEC team that you beat scoring 10 points. This is not going to happen.
John, you know how Arkansas tried to correct their woes in the red zone tonight? They didn't get in it once.
That's that's brilliant. You know what? That's the best way to do it. Just avoid it altogether. You don't even have to go in it. Just avoid it altogether, and that way you stay 16th in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I do like. I'm not trying to be the guy who's like, hey, tip your hat to a good team thing, but I got to be honest. I really didn't think LSU was going to show up as much as they did. I don't think Arkansas did either. But man,
I do that
on, man.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about getting off to a good start, and we felt like that was imperative in the Tennessee game. And obviously Arkansas did get going. They got that long, was like a 9-minute field goal drive, which kind of set the tone for that game. I feel like LSU came out and set the tone on that first possession for Arkansas against Arkansas, getting in the end zone, which how frustrating. You knew it was going to be a rough night when you get the back-to-back penalties that take LSU from the end zone to the 22-yard line. and then they run a little Houston Nut draw play that scores, a play that they were not even trying to score on. They were just trying to set up the field goal. They end up scoring on it. Man, it's a tough one.
Yeah, that's brutal, dude. And then I mean, who thought that the LSU A&M game next week was going to be a battle for first place in the SEC? What are we doing?
I mean, how about that? Shout out to our guy James M. One of the happiest, happy-go-luckiest commenters we have. He says, "Hey, the drone show was cool." John, what'd you think of it? I know you had a nice little look at it. You like the drone show?
Yeah, it was great. You know what? I love the drone show. The drone show was the best part of the damn game. Like I sit here and I try to like put it all together where it's like you have such a great crowd, and you have such a great atmosphere, and you have literally everything you need to be set up. And then like I'm watching the drone show, which it was cool. It was cool. Like seeing Darren McFadden, hey, I got that wood, like that was all cool. But it's like after that's over, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, the fact that I am like happy after that, the fact that I'm like, hey, that was the best thing about the game, says it all. And so that was just, again, just a microcosm of my pain and agony of,
you know what I like?
Watching this team.
I like made up quotes. Oh, we can't fire Pittman because we'll have to rebuild. Who will we find? Who is saying that? Like literally, who did you hear say that? So we're just going to accept missing a bowl game and having an occasional 7-win year. No, man, nobody's telling you need to accept any of that. I don't know what we have said that has made it seem like y'all should be happy about this. I think you should be extremely upset about this performance. Very much.
Be pissed. But, be pissed. If you're not pissed, you're not a Razorback fan. If you're not pissed about this performance, you're not a Razorback fan.
Tim Culver says, poorly coached teams do this. Up, down, inconsistent, undisciplined, own worst enemies. I will say, like, and it's weird because it's not like Arkansas did a bunch of like stupid stuff. Like, I don't know what they ended up in the penalty department. Let's see. Where were they at?
They had a lot.
7 for 78. That is a little bit tough.
Yeah.
But it's weird because LSU gave them plenty of room there in the penalties. But I would say the inconsistency and the fact that you can kind of see stuff like this coming and the up and down nature, that's usually a sign when things are not great. And I feel like that's kind of what we're going to remember this whole era as, is just you kind of never knew what to expect, except when it became a spot like this and it was kind of obvious where, hey, they might lay an egg here. But we had faith in our pig.
Let me be very clear about this too, just in case anybody misconstrues it. LSU deserves all the credit, and they won. Like, I don't want anybody thinking that, oh, well, you just got lucky or you got screwed or anything. No, LSU came in and beat you. They did, and they played well. But it was like you made them look like such a better team than what they actually are. And I think that's what's the frustrating thing about it, is like LSU's been in some dogfights. South Carolina put up a better fight against LSU than you. They did. And they didn't have a bye week to get ready for it. They didn't have a night game. It was an 11 a.m. kick, and they put up a better fight than you. Ole Miss put up a better fight than you. USC put up a better fight than you. Every other team that LSU has played this year, I feel like, put up a better fight than you, and you fell short. But give LSU credit.
I mean, and
they
LSU
won the game. They looked great.
When LSU had all the reason to feel cocky. I mean, we talked about how we Arkansas fans were feeling really cocky after that Tennessee game. I mean, this was an obvious letdown spot for LSU.
You know what the problem was?
Yeah.
Sam shouldn't have gone to the concert, man. He
shouldn't have. That's a good point, Curtis.
It took almost 45 minutes for this to pop up, and we had a ton of chats, so somebody else might have said it, but this is the first time I saw it. I was wondering if that was going to come up or not.
That's good stuff.
Before on Twitter, I was seeing some folks tweeting at some of the players saying they were too worried about finding an agent than getting prepped for LSU, and I was like, good Lord, man, here we go. Is low-hanging fruit. You knew if they lost, it was going to come back on them, man.
Well, again, it's like, and I think that the Sam Pittman concert thing was obviously an overblown thing. I don't think it's a big deal that he went to a concert on a bye week. I also don't think that the Braylon Russell tweet was like really that big of a deal, although I agree, you don't want to have that look. But again, when you do stuff like that, you open yourself up, and then you lay an egg like this, you kind of open yourself up to it.
I can't say anything about Braylon Russell's performance because he didn't have one. I mean, he got 3 carries in this game, which is absurd to me if Jaquindon Jackson is too hurt to play. And Braylon Russell has a breakout performance in the biggest win of the Sam Pittman era, arguably. And then he gets 3 carries. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Very strange.
David is so upset He's wondering, are we giving Cal another year? Are we giving Cal next year? No, he knows what we need to do. We need to win and makes it happen now. Slightly different situations. But, I do think like in this era of college football, it's just really hard to do the need more time argument. It's just not going to work out. And people don't want to hear it, especially when it's year 5 and the offensive line is a huge reason why they are losing. Also, do y'all agree that the busted water on Maine or on MLK was the first sign of trouble?
Yes, it absolutely was.
Yeah,
it's one of those signs, man. Signs from the above, just let you know what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, man, when it's like this. It sucks when it's like this. Yeah, if anyone thinks that like we actually do hate the Hogs and we enjoy these moments like this, could not be further from the truth. You know how sad of a scene it's going to be when I just sit in the shower for 30 minutes after this.
Have you put do not disturb on your phone? On your phone, your Louisiana buddies.
What's sad, Curtis? They're really not going to give me too hard of a time about it.
I don't know what's going on right now.
Will echo going on here? That's John.
John's fixing it. John's fixing it.
John.
Or not.
Sorry. Is that better?
I don't know.
Also, shout out to Kale the Whale saying, I think Mr. John Neighbors is upset. Yeah, I would say he's upset.
I am.
Also, a shout out to our guy Jeff, who's a loyal commenter. He says Arkansas just needs to quit playing for those dang trophies. Give them back to Basil because they are bad luck. I thought we liked the trophies. We made the cool shirts when they won all those trophies. What's wrong with the trophies? I like the trophies. I just wish Arkansas would win some of those games. Well, boys, I think we've reached that point.
Yeah, we're done here.
I don't know what else to say other than what me and Curtis are going to say tomorrow on our tremendous content that we're going to put out, which is going to be good content. We will give a very detailed report of the action. And I look forward to doing that because I'm always, on these post-game streams, it's nice to get the reaction, but I always like to offer a more measured take. I just I'm upset that my more measured take is going to be detailing my disappointment in each Arkansas position group.
Yeah, pretty much across the board, man. So, yeah, we're done here. This was fun. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and joining the despair with us. We're all in this together.
We did our part. Curtis can attest. I don't really dabble in the alcohol too much, but I did my part today.
Yeah, I tailgated hard, man.
As hard as I could. But you guys know where to find us right here on the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel. We're not gonna slow down. Unfortunately, we can't slow down, and so we're gonna continue to talk about this football team and break it down all we can. Basketball's right around the corner, which we actually unironically do look forward to that. And frankly, Arkansas's got a massive, I guess you could consider a must-win game next week. Are we in that territory with Mississippi State? So be sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Be sure you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts to Inside Arkansas Live, which is the best damn daily sports show on the planet. We're going to be crushing it there. Pod of That Nature, where you can find this one on your Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And as Michelle, our chat moderator, says, give us a like on the stream. That kind of stuff really does go a long way and matter a lot. Not out here fishing for love here, but it does help and it matters. And we appreciate you guys choosing to spend your Saturday nights with us for whatever reason.
Everybody have a good one. Appreciate y'all. Stay safe.